Now, Minister in the Presidency Khumbudzo Ntshavheni is briefing the media in Parliament right now, and we cross live to that.
Economic stability in partnership with SADC member states. Also to enhance coordination of South Africa's response and engagements in the United Nations Security Council throughout 2020 and continue to lobby for the reform of the United Nations Security Council. To develop a strategy and implement programs aimed at countering hostile forces that seek to undermine the country's interest in the continent and further identify foreign powers in South Africa and the continent that are pro or against our interest. Further, to develop legislation framework to deal with espionage activities. And also to strengthen the state's capacity to detect and counter precursors of terrorism, and to develop a strategy to neutralize hostile activities of nationals, of a particular country's nationals. Those who see the document where it's blackened out, it means we've removed the name because we couldn't remove the entire part, we just removed the name of that country's nationals in South Africa, and then expedite efforts to resolve diplomatic tensions between the two countries, that is South Africa and that particular country that remains unnamed. And this is the focus that the intelligence services, the law enforcement agencies, and departments and provinces have been given to them to work on to make sure that we achieve the goals of our national security, both the work that relates to the domestic front and also in our foreign approach, what we call the rest of the world at the SSA. And that's what they've been focusing on. Some have had successes, some have not had successes. So next year, as you measure the progress, or even now as you measure the progress we've made with the state security agencies in particular, and the NICOC that we've reported on, the OIC that we've reported on, and the National Communication Center and the intelligence agencies. You must measure us against our quest to make sure those priorities are achieved. But also you must focus also on the departments that have the responsibility to deliver some of those priorities, that how far they've gone in terms of making sure that they are in line with protecting our national security and our national interest as they conduct their businesses. On the national security strategy, the National Security Strategy was endorsed by Cabinet on the 13th of March 2024, and it brings a cohesion to our national security efforts. It outlines a whole of government, with its publication, the whole of society approach to national security by embedding intelligence at the core of strategic foresight, resilience building, and crisis prevention. And our argument is that we should not be measured by the number of crises that we have managed, but we must be measured by the number of crises that have not taken place, because it means then we have been effective. And in the period that we are speaking about of 2019-2024, outside of the 2021 July uprising, there have not been any other disruptive threats to the country. Those that have been disruptive is climate change related, which nobody has control over, but we have been working to make sure we do give advisory on the best mechanism going forward, more especially on the provinces and areas that are continuously affected by the impact of climate change, so that we can prevent future loss of lives. And those solutions and proposals are not short-term. Some of them are medium-term, and some of them require long-term proposals. But we have been working to mitigate, because ours is also the security of human life, and security of human life, it only takes place when we prevent the loss of lives. The national security strategy is grounded in the principle that national security is inseparable from human security, economic stability, democratic governance, social justice, and above all, national interest. There are 8 critical pillars contained in the national security strategy. The first pillar is the protection of South Africans, or public security, which is in the principal speak, is the well-being of South Africans. The objectives of this pillar is to ensure that the state protects the public and ensures its well-being, protects the constitutional order of the Republic of South Africa, ensure its sovereignty, independence, and its territorial integrity by protecting fundamental human and civil rights and freedoms, and strengthen civil peace and harmony, ensure political and social stability in society, improve the mechanisms of interaction between the state and civil society, and national dialogue is going to take place as part of these mechanisms. Strengthen safety and security, eradicate corruption, protect citizens and all forms of property, protect the rights and freedoms of citizens, eradicate poverty, inequality, unemployment, and racism by promoting social cohesion. The second pillar is the protection of the territorial integrity of the Republic, which is South Africa. This pillar is aimed at ensuring that the goal of defending the country are being achieved through the implementation of modern and funded defense review and updated defense policy through strategic deterrence and the prevention of military conflicts, the improvement of military organization of the state, the forms of use and methods of action of the armed forces of the Republic of South Africa, and increase mobilization readiness. Pillar 3, protection and projection of our sovereignty. This pillar will ensure that the foreign policy of the Republic of South Africa creates favorable conditions for sustainable socio-economic development of the country, strengthens national security interests abroad, strengthens the position of South Africa on matters of national interest and national security by ensuring that the country's position is coherent and red lines are understood. Red line meaning what cannot be crossed, what we call our minimum in terms of national security. Pillar 4, protection of the economy or economic security. This pillar of the national security strategy will ensure that the economic security of South Africa is strengthened, the economic sovereignty of the country is protected, and that the competitiveness of the South African economy is increased, as well as its resistance to external and internal threats. It is further aimed at creating conditions for economic growth at the rate of which will be at par with global growth or higher. And this work we do to support the departments in the economic cluster and also support the business sector, because it is about South African Inc. And this is the work that we've set ourselves to do, but set all the of country to do, to make sure that we can achieve economic prosperity as enshrined in our constitution. Pillar 5, protection of cyberspace and the environment. This pillar aims at strengthening the sovereignty of South Africa in the information space through enhanced risk awareness, encourage the country stakeholders to assume responsibility for their cybersecurity and build the necessary capabilities. Earlier in the budget vote speech, I indicated that we are finalizing consultations on the cybersecurity strategy, and which includes getting South Africans to be aware of the cybersecurity threats to themselves and what their own responsibilities are to ensure the cybersecurity of the country. And when we finish with the cybersecurity strategy, we'll then go immediately to work on the cybersecurity policy, which will then give policy guidelines, or when in Parliament they call it a white paper. From this policy we'll then develop the bill, which then Parliament will have to consider to make so that after they pass it, the President can consider consenting to that bill. As part of the efforts and the commitment I made last year that we are working to make sure that we've got the cybersecurity bill in place that is responsive, that is robust, and that will make sure that South Africa is a cyber secure country. Pillar 6, protection and promotion of technology and innovation. This pillar is aimed at ensuring that the South Africa's scientific and technological development is independent and competitive. It further ensures that there is enough investment into research and development capacity, and that the country's intellectual property is protected. I think this is self-articulating. And you are aware that the Department of Basic Education in the 6th administration started to introduce teaching of robotics, data analytics, and machine learning from grade 1, I think, from grade 1, and now it has progressed. And they are now teaching also technology as a course across. And that's part of making sure that we can be innovative. When I was in the Department of Small Business Development, the University of Limpopo, we're working on getting Siri or coding for a geospatial guidance in indigenous languages, meaning that Siri could speak in Sepedi, and if Siri could speak in Sepedi at some point, it will mean Siri will be able to speak in Chivenda, Xitsonga, Sesotho, Setswana, isiXhosa, isiZulu, Afrikaans, Kru, and the Khmer and Siswati, isiNdebele, and any other language that is official in South Africa. Because part of this work is important for the sovereignty and the independence of our country, but in a digital era, we are also driving an economy, a digital economy, so our children must be competitive, but ourselves must be competitive. But this work also includes supporting an environment that is led by the Department of Science and Innovation, that creates a framework for scientific support and innovation in the country. We know and we are fully aware that investment in research and development in the country is low, but we continue to work and advise government and departments on means of increasing their ability to invest on technological development. We are still lucky that we are rated the biggest innovative country in Africa, but we don't want to settle for just being the biggest in our own continent. We want to settle for being the best in the world. So we want to punch, for those who want to say it, maybe punch above our weight, but we think our weight is big enough. Don't judge South Africa's weight by my weight. Pillar 7, protection of the environment and natural resources, or what we call environmental security. This pillar will ensure that the environmental security of South Africa and the rational use of natural resources. It will further ensure the quality of the environment necessary for favorable human life, conservation and restoration of the natural environments, balanced use of natural resources, and the mitigation of the negative effects of the climate change. I had spoken on this just previously at length. Pillar 8, which is the last pillar, protection of South Africa's culture and heritage, which we call cultural security. This pillar will ensure the strengthening of the cultural sovereignty of South Africa and preserve its unified cultural space and heritage through the protection of historical truth, the preservation of historical memory, continuity in the development of the country and its historically established unity, and opposition to the falsification of history. This pillar is further aimed at building social cohesion, national identity, and patriotism. And South Africa, we do very well on this pillar as it relates to sports and celebrations of our creative industry. But we do very badly in telling each other the truth and maintaining the truth. There are those who seek to rewrite history. Some of us, as we stand in the podium, we are not supposed to speak about how bad the apartheid oppressive system was into not only the psyche of South Africans, but to the development of the country, that still 30 years later, the country still suffer the after effects of the impact of apartheid, that only maybe my children and your children, some of you who are my age, will then benefit from living in a true and equal and prosperous South Africa, because there are those who continue to be opposed to transformation, to make sure that South Africans who were disadvantaged previously can be given equal opportunities, can be supported to enhance their participation in the economy. There are those who wish to preserve the rights of a few at the expense of the right of the majority. And in terms of our constitutional architecture, we and our forefathers have affirmed and committed that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white, and that the country's wealth must be shared amongst those who work it, and that all South Africans must be given equal opportunity. And we cannot whitewash the history of apartheid and its impact on our people. We must also recall the warnings of the 2018 High-Level Review Panel that a lack of a policy coherence, political accountability, and institutional reform within the intelligence community posed a threat to national security itself. In implementing the panel's recommendation by releasing the NIE, the NIP, and the National Security Strategy, we are not only representing or complying with the recommendation, but we are deliberate in our action of democratic renewal. It is our commitment to building a modern, ethical, and professional intelligence capability guided by law, oversight, and strategic foresight. This is part of our commitment to transform the sector to serve the Constitution, not partisan interests. Let me be clear, this is not the end of the process. It is the beginning of a new, progressive chapter in how intelligence functions in the service of South African people. We do so in a world of rapidly evolving threats, hybrid warfare, misinformation, climate-induced instability, and shifting geopolitical dynamics. Our national security response must be anticipatory, inclusive, and adaptive. In conclusion, I want to thank the men and women of our national intelligence community, both at the SSA, SABC, Defense Intelligence, and NICOC, and the Office of the Inspector General, who have worked with discipline, humility, and excellence to bring this moment to fruition. I also extend appreciation to Parliament for holding us accountable, and to the people of South Africa for whom this transformation is being undertaken. Let history reflect that we chose transparency over secrecy, service over self-interest, and reform over inertia. But we chose this transparency within the confines of our national security interests. Let us now work together to protect and advance our democratic gains through intelligence that is principled, professional, and people-centered. The documents, that is the National Security Strategy 2024 to 2028 and the National Intelligence Estimate with its national intelligence priorities 2019 to 2024, have been published on the government website www.gov.za. This is www.gov.za, and the presidency website, which is www.presidency.gov.za. I'm still negotiating with SSA on whether we can publish on their website. Thank you very much.